Welcome to another edition of the Pucks with Haggs podcast, powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. I believe it's the 128th episode of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. I'm your host, Joe Haggerty. You can find my work at joehaggerty.substack.com. Subscribe to a premium membership, and you get all of my Bruins and NHL writing sent straight directly to your inbox. I also write 3 columns a week on the Boston Bruins for the Boston Sports Journal, so go to bostonsportsjournal.com. And check that out. With me this week, I have the Boston Herald's Steve Conroy, the New England Hockey Journal's Mark Divver. Mark, what else does it say on your Twitter account? Like some random dude in the Northeast or something like that? I love that when you put that on there.
Well, yeah, some random dude in New England.
In New England.
I reported something a while ago, a year or so ago, out of Minnesota, right? So some guy out there was like, who is this random dude from New England? You know? So I got a kick out of it.
Oh, every time I look at your Twitter handle, I get a kick out of it. I love that you put that in your description because I think it's hilarious. So Mark Divver, some random dude from New England, is also joining us. Let's thank our sponsors real quick. Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Let's also thank Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Steve, 4-1 win for the Bruins over the Flyers last night. Pretty dominant performance all around. They had a little trouble finishing, even though they were dominating play and puck possession the first 2 periods. But they closed it out in the third, finished strong, really showed a lot of good signs. Your impressions and the things that stuck out to you most from that game last night?
Yeah, you know, after last year, you can celebrate 2 empty net goals, right? You know,
That's right.
They had so much trouble closing out those 6-on-5 situations last year, and that was, you know, closing the game out the way they did was, you know, obviously a positive. The way they dominated play and possession in the first period and third period. I thought the second period was kind of choppy. Yep. It was back and forth a little bit. I mean, that overall was good. You know, that's a team that, you know, against a much younger version of the Bruins on Saturday night, put 40 shots on net. They were held to, 14 shots last night?
Yep.
And another thing that stuck out, and I knew it was going to be an issue, you know, after not replacing, you know, Jake DeBrusk, is, you know, they're going to have a hard time scoring. You know, they're going to be, you know, on one hand, they're going to be more equipped to grind out those kind of wins. You know, that was essentially a 2-1 win with two empty net goals. And it's going to, you know, they're going to have a hard time scoring goals.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of last night, especially. I don't know if this is still a preseason training camp thing, but I felt like there was a lot of passing up of shots to try to score. Like Pasta was did that a couple times, where he was just not shooting the puck, and I don't know if he was just kind of, you know, just like preseason Pasta. I feel to some degree there was some of that going on, but like I agree with you. I think they are gonna struggle to finish. You know, they're going to be all around it. They're going to have good puck possession, I think, because they have some good puck possession players. But there's definitely going to be times where they're all around it and they're not finishing. It was good to see Tyler Johnson finish a power play chance. That was a nice play. Pasternak down low to Zacha cross ice to Johnson on the backdoor for the one-timer. Johnson, I thought, played another really good game, 3 shots on net, played all 3 forward positions. Has shown that he can play up and down the lineup, can be versatile, can do a lot of different things. So I thought he was a very big positive in that game. Justin Brazeau finished off another play in front of the net. I think he's one of those guys that will finish off plays. Jim Montgomery saying the Trent Frederick, Brazeau, Johnson trio was the best line of the night, and they definitely were. I thought they played well. And, you know, the other thing that's positive was Brandon Bussey. Like, even though he saw only 14 shots, he stopped 13 of them, had a big save on Anthony Richard when it was a 2-1 game. He did have a bad rebound on the goal that he gave up, which was an issue the game before that. But I thought this was a nice step forward for him as he's potentially building to be the backup goalie to Korpisalo if things drag out with Swayman. Mark, your impressions of last night, what you saw and what stuck out to you?
Well, I don't have any negatives. I thought it was what you would hope it would be. I think the Bussy thing, not many shots, but gives them a chance to kind of settle in a little bit and build some confidence with that save near the end. Not a lot of shots, like I said, but he got the job done when the game was on the line. I've been impressed with Johnny Beecher in camp. I don't know if he has any goals or any points, but it seems to me his level of engagement in the game has been where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Whereas at times last season it was kind of in and out, and earned him a demotion to Providence at one point. But I think he looks like he's dialed in this year, so I've liked him. I've liked Koepke since the start of camp.
Yeah.
I don't think they signed him with the idea that he was going to be in Providence, and I think I think he's got a good chance of making the team at this point. So those positives like that. Mason Lowry had a couple of rough shifts.
He did. That actually is as rough as I've seen Lowry look in a long time. I thought he looked pretty rough all night.
Yeah, but hey, it's training camp. That's going to happen. So overall, I would say it was what they were looking for at this point in camp.
As far as Bussy goes, Mark, you've seen him way more than we have. Has the rebounds control and the rebound stuff been a thing for him at times in Providence?
Oh yeah, that's definitely a thing. And in the American League, the guys aren't as quick to jump on those rebounds and put them in the net. In the NHL, it's a different story. Those guys will bury them. Last night, the guy had an open net, but that's something he relies on his athleticism and his his compete to make saves on rebounds in the American League. But he's going to have to reduce the number of rebounds if he's going to be effective in the NHL.
All right, but all around, I think that was a feel-good preseason win where it feels like they're building towards something that was close to their full lineup, pretty close to having all their players in last night. So it was a good showing against a Flyers team that had some pretty good players as well. I want to take a break from the show to tell you about my friends at Prize Picks, a great sponsor of the Pucks with Haggs podcast. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America and the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Instead of battling thousands of other players that could be pros or sharks, you simply pick more or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll right in. Right now, you could go with Tyreek Hill for more than 90 yards receiving and Dak Prescott for more than 263 passing yards, Josh Allen for less than 240 passing yards, and my boy CeeDee Lamb on my fantasy football team for more than 96 receiving yards. Or you could go with my guy Kyler Murray after he helped blow up the Cardinals offense last week and really has shown now that he's all the way back from injuries. So that's my special pick is Kyler Murray. Go with him to put up big numbers across the board, rushing, passing, TDs, all of it. Right now, one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you one win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. You can also now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. What is better than that? Prize Picks, run your game. I mean, let's get right to what I think everybody wants to hear about. The press conference at Bruins Media Day. It turned into a drama-filled event where Cam Neely was kind of playing the Harry Sinden role of being the heavy a little bit, and you could tell he was a little annoyed. I think it was by design a bit too, because I think they feel like this negotiation has gone public, and it was their turn to sort of respond. But A couple things. Cam had the I know I'd have 64 million reasons why I'd be playing right now. Subsequent reports, I think it was Frank Sarvalli, said that the Bruins offer was 8 times 7.8, which is actually 62.4 instead of 64, but like close enough, right? Like, I don't think, I think it's very disingenuous if Louis Gross sends out a message saying that's the first time before the $64 million number. They're like, it came out of nowhere when he's just like playing semantics with the actual offer. But it sounds like the Bruins have come up to pretty close to 8 times 8. Maybe they're even willing to go to 8 times 8 if push comes to shove. And it seems like, I'm not sure the Swayman Louis Gross camp has moved much at all. There was also Don Sweeney saying something about I'm not surprised by players' asks or whatever, and then Cam like interjected and was like, I was surprised. Steve, your thoughts on Cam's role in that press conference, on the way things lately that Bruins management is handling this, and you know, your guess as to like whether this relationship can be salvaged or if we're headed down a path where there's so much animosity built up that it's gonna be hard to repair it.
Well, only Jeremy Swayman can answer that. You know, it's obviously gotten far nastier than, you know, either side had wanted it to get.
Yep.
Listen, the Bruins had, you know, kind of tried to play nice. You know,
Yep.
they could have taken a 2-year award last year in arbitration. They chose to go with the 1, and you know, hopefully work out a long-term deal and pay him what he was worth. Didn't work out. They could have filed for arbitration this past summer, and they didn't do it, hoping that they could work something out. So, you know, if they had filed for arbitration, then they'd probably have him, you know, on a deal for $5 million, and they'd be able to, you know, go sign another right wing.
Yep.
Or you know, attain one somehow. But you know, we'll see if this is, you know, if this breaks the logjam. Whether Cam was guilty of rounding up on it or not, there's an offer for 8.8, 8 times 8 on the table. There's no way the Bruins could back off from 8 times 8 at this point.
Right.
Whether they can go up or willing to go up on that, or whether Swayman is willing to come down. I mean, everybody has speculated that, you know, his original ask was 9.5, and you know, I think the Bruins. I think Elliot Friedman said that the Bruins' initial offer, at least he thought, was 8 times 6.5. So the Bruins have moved a fair bit.
Yep.
8 times 8 sounds pretty fair.
I think so too. And look, you know, if somebody was speculating that the Swayman Gross camp is at 8.5 right now, and if I just have a general philosophical problem with you signing Jeremy Swayman to $8.5 million a year, to the amount that Connor Hellebuck got after winning 2 Vezina trophies, like, and you're going to give somebody that never started more than 44 games, has never been a number 1 goalie, basically you're allowing him to skip that whole, you know, bridge contract step that he was sort of in line for, and you're going to automatically start paying him the same amount as like one of the best goalies in the world that's a proven workhorse, like has already shown you everything you need to know on that Winnipeg Jets team. I honestly would have a big problem with the Bruins doing that, just from a philosophical standpoint, if I just don't think Jeremy Swayman has earned that kind of a contract. And like 8 is close enough, right? Like I frankly don't think he's earned 8 times 8, but like I think he's been able to negotiate his way into that by playing hardball with the Bruins and taking advantage of them kind of playing nice here. And maybe Don Sweeney and Kim Neely underestimated Swayman a little bit, and how much animus there was from arbitration, how much he wanted to win this negotiation. But Mark, your thoughts are just on where we're at, how you think this gets resolved, and if you think there's going to be a way to salvage this. Because, like, frankly, I think fans are going to even feel a little differently about Jeremy Swayman now, especially if it gets to a point where he signs a contract and, like, the Bruins are maybe forced to jettison somebody from the roster that they can't afford now because of how much money that he's making on his deal.
Well, it certainly was an interesting plot twist the other day when Cam spoke up. But, you know, I wonder, is Cam, you know, is he reflective of the thoughts from the guy at the top of the pyramid, Jeremy Jacobs? Is that, you know, I wonder how I wonder if Jeremy is playing a part in this, or if he's just sitting off to the side waiting for his guys to straighten it out. We don't know that. I would hope that they can patch this up. I mean, to burn the relationship to the ground over a contract dispute like this I don't think that that'd be good for either side, obviously. But I think clearly they have to compromise both sides probably and get this done, because without him, they've gone from a team with maybe the best goaltending in the league last year to a completely uncertain situation this year, and that's no good.
The other
another point I wanted to make was, and an agent said to me yesterday, he said, "This is actually all about Igor."
Yeah,
meaning Shesterkin, and it's a matter of does how much does Swayman really buy into the idea that the future of goalie contracts are on his shoulders?
Right. Well, yeah, and Bobrovsky's coming up too, and I think there's probably an element of not wanting to look like he's grossly underpaid when those guys sign their deals and they're going to be getting paid a lot more. Like, frankly, they're going to be double-digit millions per year. Certainly Shesterkin is. So yeah, I think that's definitely a factor as well. But the other part of this is, like, how much do we feel like Jeremy Swayman now is going to struggle this year because of all that's happened, because of missing training camp? He's a 25-year-old goalie. He's not that experienced when it comes to getting ready for the season. And you're talking about thrusting him into a situation now where he's going to have a ton of pressure on him. He's going to be trying to catch a moving train, and he's going to still be dealing with what he's never had to deal with before, which is being a number one goalie and the physical and mental pressure that goes along with that, and not having a Vezina Trophy winning partner next to him for the first time in his career, not having Tuukka, not having Linus Ullmark. Like, I think a lot of signs are pointing to the way this has developed this summer and this fall to Swayman having a down year and really kind of scuffling at times this season. And that, to your point, Steve, I think that's going to impact the Bruins this season as well, just based on what's happened already.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
This doesn't really, affect the Bruins, but if Swayman is to be under consideration for the Four Nations team, he might, depending on how long this lasts, he might end up on the outside looking in because of a slow start or a late start. Not that has, that's not a consideration here in Bruins Nation, really, but it could be something that, turns out that way down the road.
Steve?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how important is that to him to be, to become America's goalie? You've got the Four Nations this year.
Yeah.
Would that put him on the inside track to be the Olympic guy? So that is, from the outside looking in, I would think that that's a consideration. How much of a consideration it is for him, I'm not sure.
We'll be back to the show in a minute, but let's thank our sponsors right here. And then right now we've got Game Time. Do you remember your first NFL football game? I do. I remember going into the New England Patriots and the Cincinnati Bengals. It was 1985. It was the last game of the regular season, and the Patriots had to win to clinch a wild card spot in the playoffs. And what did they do? They went out and beat the Bengals. They won the game. And I honestly remember this game very vividly because I was 11 years old at the time. And after the game was over, all the fans stormed the field, ran down, ripped off the goalposts, and carried it right out of the stadium. I wanted to go down and do it and join the crowd. My dad said, absolutely not. There was no friggin' way you're going down there. And that was my first memory of seeing an NFL football game live. It was an awesome game. It was back in the Tony Collins, Steve Grogan, Tony Eason era, Stanley Morgan, all those guys, Andre Tippett. Great time to be a Patriots fan. But that brings me back to Game Time and going to NFL football now and going to a Patriots game at this point and how great that is. Wouldn't you want to have tickets to any of those games. Well, that's what you can get at Game Time. You take the guesswork out of buying tickets for NFL football, for Major League Baseball, for concerts, for comedy, for whatever. You take the guesswork out of getting those tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. There's so many great features with Game Time. All-in pricing, toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Game Time is the gold standard when it comes to buying tickets for pro sports, for entertainment, for anything. So I'm going to tell you one more time. You want to download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Tyler Johnson had a goal last night. I think he's had a good preseason, good camp. He's a very versatile guy. He's a useful guy. Do we think he's already a lock to make this roster as a 13th forward, as a guy that could be the top 12? Just basically, is he going to be similar to Heinen, where he's going to make this team after being a veteran tryout? Mark, what do you think?
I think he's made the team.
Yeah.
I think last night locked it up. And one factor may be that if he wasn't going to make the team, or they felt he wasn't, or he was too close to the bubble, they would have let him go by now so that he could catch on with another team before the start of the season. Yeah, I think he'll be there on opening night. Maybe not in the lineup, but on the roster.
Yeah, it feels like he and Patra might end up, sort of be vying for the same spot, or one would be in, one would be out. But it seems like they might be in the same mix together. And if it ever got to the point where Johnson really grabbed firm hold of a role in the top 12, Patra would probably end up going to Providence so he could play instead of sitting there and watching. But I think to start the year, Johnson might end up being the perfect 13th forward. Because he's a veteran guy and he's going to be able to sit for a few games and then jump in and still be effective. Steve, your thoughts on Johnson making the team and sort of what you've seen out of him?
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen out of him. He can be helpful, and they may need what the goals he got in the points he got in Chicago. Were a lot on the power play, and they may need just that from him.
Yep.
The first power play unit didn't look great last night until the game winner. I'd probably keep him. They've got a few bodies. They've got to figure some things out. We still haven't seen Max Jones yet, and they went out and got him in free agency. So you got to think that they want him on this team. So we got to figure. They got to figure that out. They got to figure out whether Patra is the guy there. I would kind of like to have Patra here, to be honest with you. I think he's played pretty well.
Yep.
So there's some stuff to figure out. I think there's going to be, once you got past the first line, there could be quite a bit of moving around throughout the season. Yeah,
definitely. And I think it speaks to that they've got a lot of interchangeable parts, and B, they to your point, Steve, when DeBrusk left, they didn't really replace him, so there's not a lot of there's not enough bona fide top six guys where I think you're constantly going to be plugging somebody into the top six that maybe, is more bottom six on most teams. But I do think Patra, I think while he hasn't been dazzling as he was last preseason, obviously when he really surprised everybody at 19 years old and made the team, I think he's shown a lot of the same things. I think he's been extremely solid when he's been in there, and I think he looks like an NHL player. He looks like he should be there. Certainly, he showed a lot more, I thought, than Lysell and Merkulov did. What you've seen, Mark, out of Patra and Lysell and Merkulov getting sent down as quickly as they did, kind of a message from the Bruins that not good enough again in this training camp.
Well, the captain said it, right? Last week.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, Patra's finished a couple of plays, right? Lysell has not. He finished once. And I think if you're trying to make a team, trying to take a job away from somebody or carve out a spot on the roster, that's what you need. You need to finish plays, put the puck in the net, or pass it to somebody else who puts the puck in the net. And I don't think Lysell did that enough. And Merck, I mean, I think it was the first game he was on the power play, and he tried a seam pass, didn't get through. It got hit a stick. There was another one. A guy was wide open, and he didn't get it to him. It was a question of execution, I think, for him. He didn't execute when given the chance. So, we'll see how that goes in Providence. If something happens early and they need a skilled center, power play guy, maybe it's Merck. But, I don't think I was a little surprised that they sent those two guys down so quickly.
Yeah.
But, hey, they did, and now they're here, and we'll see how they react. The first day, Merck, his lower lip was sticking out a little bit, I think. Lysell was. I'm sorry.
Lysell. Yeah.
And Merck, smiling, more not his grumpy self. He was, but we'll see how those guys do, because how you deal with setbacks like this can define your career and where it's going. If you can't overcome this, then I think your chances of ever making it are slim. So those guys just gotta go back to work and go forward.
No, people are definitely watching guys like that and how they react to those kind of situations and that kind of adversity. They're always watching to see how that impacts them and how they react to it. I personally liked them sending Lysell and Merkelev down as quickly as they did, because it kind of sent a message like, you got to be better. And it was you're right. It was the exact same sort of message as Brad Marchand's verbal assessment of them being pretty good in some of these preseason games. Steve, your thoughts on them getting sent down as quickly as they were?
Yeah, I thought Lysell had made some progress this year in camp. And I would have liked to see him get another game, and maybe he will. Don Sweeney, left that open that he might,
yep.
or somebody else, a Merkulov or whoever. He wasn't quite there. There was a play last night that where Morgan Geekie just manhandled the guy coming out of the zone and turned the puck over and went back on the attack. And I said to Fluto was next to me. I said, I'm not seeing Fabian Lysell making that play.
No,
and he's just not assertive enough like that just yet. I don't know if he'll ever be that kind of guy, but he's got skill, and they're kind of in need of it in some spots of the lineup. I'd like to see him, focus in Providence and get himself back up here, earn a spot back up here, even if it's just for a 3-game stint, just to get find out what it's like to play in the NHL in the regular season. He's 21 years old. You'd like your first round draft pick to be here by now,
yep.
But it's not the end of the world. There's something there. I'm not sure if it can fully come out, but we'll see.
And to your point, like Matt Patra's not that guy either, like you were mentioning with Geekie, but you do see him win some puck battles that you don't expect him to win, and he comes out with the puck. He does that consistently.
Yeah. He's his move along the boards, down in the corner on the boards where he spins around with the puck and he avoids hits and everything. That's kind of his patented move, where he gets the puck to the middle of the ice. And I'm not exactly sure what Lysell's patented move is.
Yeah, no, I don't think we've seen it yet, except for the bottom upper lip jutting out when he's not happy in practice. And Mark Divver gets front row seat to quite a bit. All right, we've got a question here from 7 Bruins 7. He says he's very frustrated, clearly. He says, trade Swayman at this point. The money doesn't make sense. The term doesn't either. He's a good goalie that has never played 50 or more games, who struggles with rebound control. If I were Sweeney, I'd say 3 years, $7 million is all. He knows the cap is going to rise up. Steve, is there any scenario still at this point where you even begin to entertain like trade offers, trade scenarios with Jeremy Swayman? Do you think that would that more be a thing where if this plays out until December 1st, and it turns into, because like, let me paint this scenario, okay? If neither side budges, if there's hard feelings, if Jeremy Swayman never says to Louis Gross, just get this done, I want to play, until December 1st, like, it's probably going to be a 1-year deal at that point, right? It's probably not going to be a long-term deal. Jeremy Swayman could struggle mightily in that kind of situation if he tries to jump on in December. And if he's on a 1-year deal and he's still got 1 more year under team control, like, he could really significantly hurt his value where he never sees the kind of money that they're talking about right now again, or he certainly doesn't for a year or two. Like, he's taking a big risk as well. Is there any situation you see in the recent term where you could see a trade scenario coming?
I find it hard to believe that. There are only so many teams who could fit him under the cap right now.
Yep.
They need a goalie back in return, and probably a number one goalie back in return for him. They really like him. They like him for the reasons why they're in the situation they're in right now, is because he's this, stubborn so-and-so.
Yep.
And he's, they don't call him Bulldog for nothing.
Yep.
So I can almost see them letting him sit out the year before they trade him.
Yeah. I mean, that's potential. I don't think he would let that happen though, right? Like, I think, like I said, I think he would say to his agent, like, we got to get a deal. Maybe it would even be similar, like, from what I heard about William Nylander, like, he finally had to call the Leafs and say, let's get this done instead of Louis Gross. And maybe he has to do that in order to play. I don't think Swayman's going to want to give up his year of service time and sit out the entire year. I don't think that makes sense for him either.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
But like I said, like, if he like ends up like last minute says, I want to play, and like, let's say it becomes a 1-year deal that he signs in December, because if they can't come to an agreement, is he just going to finally, like, is the offer even going to be on the table in December, that the Bruins have right now, if it comes to that point? Like, there's so many things in motion here and moving pieces. But Mark, do you see any point where it could turn into, because of the hard feelings that have been built up, a trade happening?
I suppose it's always possible, but like I said earlier, I would hope that the relationship wouldn't be burned to the ground to the point that happens.
Yeah.
And there's a possibility he could be traded to a bad team, and who wants that? If you're him, you don't want to play on a bad team after being on a team that's near the top of the league every year. So.
Well, I mean, judging by some of the comments from the Bruins and the fact he has no trade protection whatsoever, there's a very good chance that could happen if it got to that point and they wanted to do something out of spite, is they could send him somewhere he absolutely doesn't want to go and turn it into a situation like that. And that's kind of the risk that you run when you start playing like some of the games that are going on.
Yeah, and maybe that's something like maybe Harry Sinden would do back in the day, but
right.
The management has to consider that, every other player in the league is watching, and if if the Bruins, go to the mattresses and just completely sewer this guy in terms of where they send him and all of that, it's not going to look good for in the future trying to trade for or sign guys to come here.
No,
that's true. That's definitely true.
And obviously Cam is emotional, and that's who he is. But I don't think Sweeney would act emotionally and screw the guy over just to do it. I just don't see that happening.
No, I can tell you right now, some of the kids that watch the Bruins games, like, they are big fans of Cam and how emotional he is. Like, Finn and his buddies love the video of Cam gunning the water bottle against the wall in the Stanley Cup Final game against the Blues. And I'm convinced if they ever actually meet Cam at the Garden, they're going to ask him to recreate that moment for them. Because that's kind of what they know him for than anything else, a bunch of 10, 11-year-old kids. So it's pretty hilarious. What are you guys, Steve, what are you looking for here as we're entering the final few games of the preseason? Is there anything you really think any guys are on the bubble or anybody? Are we kind of set with the roster right now?
You're close to set. I'd like to see the power play clicked for the game winner last night. I'd like to be able to see it with Marchand on there, see how that works. There was an instant on the early power play last night where he and Pasternak were trying that cross ice pass that just is not getting through anymore.
Yep.
So I'd like to see them, be able to work on the power play a little bit. I don't know who's going to be in the lineup tomorrow night in Quebec City, but I imagine on the last game of the preseason on Saturday in Washington, it'll be pretty much a full lineup. So I'd like to see them work on the power play. Maybe Johnson needs to solidify his spot. I think they know what he does and all that.
Yep.
But they've got to keep money. They don't have all that much money to work with.
Well, that's true. And I do think, if you remember last year, Danton Heinen didn't sign his contract until October 30th. I think 8 or 9 games had already gone by during the regular season. So I think it's definitely a scenario where that same thing could play out with Tyler Johnson, especially where they don't have cost certainty with Jeremy Swayman. Yeah. And the Swayman thing may hold up them signing Tyler Johnson until they know exactly what they're dealing with here. So that's something to watch as well. But to Mark's point, I agree. They would have cut him loose by now if they didn't think he was a part of the, if they didn't have some kind of handshake thing or an agreement that, hey, you're our guy, we'll figure it out down the road when we have a chance. But they would have cut him loose by now if they didn't think he wasn't going to be on the team or didn't have a great chance to be on the team. Mark, what you're looking for in these last couple of preseason games, if anything?
Well, I think in Quebec, I expect it'll be a heavy AHL presence. I don't think they're going to haul everybody up there and plug them in against LA. But the most important thing I think in these last 2 games is don't get hurt.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone get hurt.
Oh, the Ottawa game is a great example of that.
Yeah, and Macklin Celebrini goes down, falls into the boards, and he's out of the game. It seems like an epidemic of training camp or exhibition game injuries here, and that has the potential for disaster, not only for Boston but for any team to have top guys maybe getting hurt and missing time. So that's my thing for these next few games, and another game for Bussy, I would hope, or at least half a game maybe help him continue to get to build on what his game last night. Get more comfortable.
Whenever I see these preseason games where there's a bunch of injuries, and it was like Stutzel, Brady Tkachuk, and I think somebody else got hurt in that game last night, preseason game, Ottawa Senators, I always harken back to when I was a kid, the New England Patriots, the last preseason game of the preseason, and I think Ronnie Lepet, Garen Veras, and Andre Tippett all went down with season-ending injuries that basically submarined the entire Patriots season after that when they got hurt.
Yeah.
That's always what I think about as far as how dangerous the preseason going to be. And I saw Larry Brooks last night sending out messages about something's got to be done about the preseason, and the NHLPA and NHL have to get together. And I don't know if it's lessening the number of preseason games or what they could do, but if you feel like something's got to be done at some point to mitigate the risks here with the players.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, Mike.
The opportunity to fill, the Garden a couple times, that's it's tempting, right? It's tempting to you're not paying the players in preseason, so all that money, you're not sharing that money.
Yeah.
So, I think that's something the owners are going to have to bite the bullet on is take less. 1 or 2 home games, and that's it. That's enough. The way these guys keep themselves in shape now, they're not playing themselves into shape anymore. That's long. Those days are long gone. So fewer games.
Most definitely, I agree. But the question is, will they take less? The owners, and interesting. I think the NHL and NHLPA have scheduled like preliminary discussions on the next CBA, which should be interesting as well. That they're already like
What could go wrong?
yeah,
What could go wrong?
yeah. These guys, what could possibly go wrong between those two? They have such a like rosy relationship in the past. Steve, Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Let's also thank our sponsors. Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. Also, Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, comedy tickets, concert tickets, sporting tickets, any kind of tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. What time is it? Game Time. Steve, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.
Everybody else out there, thanks for listening. We'll see you at the rink.